I'm going to read some excerpts from Seth-Dreams and Projections of Consciousness by Jane Roberts. There'll be some stuff that is Jane talking or writing, and some stuff that's Seth. The first part is Jane's first initiation, really, into meeting Seth, and it's called Idea Construction. The physical universe as idea construction. So this came to her in a dissociated state, and it's pretty neat. So I wanted to read it. You guys can comment on it. Let me know what you think. So she's in a dissociated state, and this is the first time it's happened. This is what she got. She was sitting down at a writing table, writing poetry, and then all of a sudden she went off into a different reality, into really a trance. And when she came to, she found all of this written down, and she was just shocked. She's just wondering, did I write this? I don't remember writing this. So here it is. So it came to her as definitions at first. So energy. Energy is the basis of the universe. Ideas. Ideas are mental transformations of energy by an entity into physical reality. Idea constructions. Idea constructions are transformations of ideas into physical reality. Space. Space is where our idea constructions do not exist in the physical universe. The physical body. Physical body is the material construction of the entity's idea of itself under the properties of matter. The individual is the part of the entity or whole self of which we are conscious in daily life. It is that part of the whole self which we are able to express or make real through our idea constructions on a physical level. The subconscious. The subconscious is the threshold of an idea's emergence into the individual conscious mind. It connects the entity and the individual. Personality. Personality is the individual's overall responses to ideas received and constructed. It represents the emotional coloration of the individual's ideas and constructions at any given time. Emotions. Emotions are the driving force that propel ideas into constructions. Instinct. Instinct is the minimum ability for idea constructions necessary for physical survival. Learning. Learning is the potential for constructing new idea complexes from existing ideas. Idea complexes. Idea complexes are groups of ideas formed together like building blocks to form more complicated constructions in physical reality. Communication is the interchange of ideas by entities on the energy, non-physical level. Action. Action is idea in motion. The senses are channels of projection by which ideas are projected outward to create the world of appearances. Environment. Environment is the overall idea constructions with which an individual surrounds himself. Physical time. Physical time is the apparent lapse between the emergence of an idea in the physical universe as a construction and its replacement by another. The past. The past is the memory of ideas that were, but are no longer physical constructions. The present. The present is the apparent point of any idea's emergence into physical reality. The future. The future is the apparent lapse between the disappearance of one idea construction and its replacement by another in physical reality. Psychological time. Psychological time is the apparent lapse between the conception of ideas. Aging. Aging is the effect upon an idea construction of the properties of matter of which the construction is composed. Growth. Growth is the formation of an idea construction towards its fullest possible materialization, following the properties of matter. Sleep. Sleep is the entity's relative rest from idea construction, except the minimum necessary for physical survival. The physical universe. The physical universe is the sum of individual idea constructions. And the last one is memory. Memory is the ghost image of past idea constructions. All right, and then, so at first it came as definitions, and then she started to write more deeply into each one of those definitions. So she goes on to write, without realizing it, each evolutionary change is preceded and caused by a new idea. As the idea is in the process of being constructed into the physical plane, it prepares the material world for its own actuality and creates the prerequisite conditions. Evolution is energy's movement toward conscious expression in the physical universe, but it is basically non-physical. A species at any given time is the materialization of the inner images or ideas of its individual members, each of whom forms their own idea constructions. At no point can we actually say that one construction vanishes and another takes its place, but artificially we adopt certain points as past, present, and future for convenience. At some point we agree that the physical construction ceases to be one thing and becomes another, but actually it still contains elements of the past constructions and is already becoming the next one. Though the construction of an idea seems to disappear physically, the idea which it represents still exists. Sleep is the entity's rest from physical idea construction. Only enough energy is used to keep the personal image construction in existence. The entity withdraws into basic energy realms and is comparatively free from time, since idea construction is at a minimum level. The entity is in contact with other entities at a subconscious area. After death, the entity will have its ghost images, memories, at its command, though their apparent sequence will no longer apply. Memories are properties of the subconscious energy entity and, as such, are indestructible, though they may be unavailable to the individual under various circumstances. The next plane of existence will involve further training in energy use and manipulation, since the energy of which the entity is composed is self-generating and always seeking more complicated form and awareness. Each material particle is an idea construction formed by the individualized bits of energy that compose it. Each entity perceives only his own constructions on a physical level. Because all constructions are more or less faithful reproductions in matter of the same basic ideas, since all individuals are generally speaking on the same level in this plane, then they agree sufficiently in space, time, and degree so that the world of appearances has coherence and relative predictability. Alright, and now going into each one separately. She's still out of it. The fabric of physical matter. All physical matter is idea construction. We only see our own constructions. So-called empty space is full of constructions not our own that we cannot perceive. Our skin connects us to other physical constructions, and through it we are involved in the complicated fabric of continuous matter. The action of each one of the most minute of these particles affects each other one. The slight motion of one grain of sand causes a corresponding alteration in the distribution of the stars and in all matter's fabric, from an atom in a man's skull down to the slightest variation in a microbe's action. All matter is idea construction woven together. Each construction is individual and yet cohesive to the whole. The smallest particle is necessary to the whole, forming part of matter's design. The universe as a physical body. The matter of the universe can be conceived of as a physical body, an organism of individual cells, objects, held together by connective tissue, the chemicals and elements of air. This connective tissue is also alive and carries electrical impulses. Within it, as within the connective tissues of the human body, there is a certain elasticity, a certain amount of regeneration, and a constant replacement of the atoms and molecules that compose it. While the whole retains its shape, the material itself is being constantly born and replaced. There's the diagram right there. Okay, so she pauses in her book here to write some information about her diagram. She says, "This rough diagram came with the above material. It was supposed to represent the energy of the entity as it flowed outward through the subconscious to the conscious, in order to construct the physical image and environment in response to the self's idea of what it was. I was involved with the pure experience behind the diagram and words with which I was left. The revelation was that there was no real boundaries to the self. Skin did not separate us from others, but connected us in a webwork of energy. What we thought of as self and not self were interrelated, and that, in this life at least, ideas were constantly being transformed into matter." And then here are some further excerpts from Idea Construction. So it goes on. The ability of the entity to transform energy into an idea and then to construct it physically determines the entity's place on the physical evolutionary plane. Simple organisms are capable of picking up fewer communications. Their range is less, but the vitality and validity of their constructions is excellent. In simple organisms, such as the paramecium and the amoeba, the few sharp ideas received are constructed almost simultaneously, without reflection. The organism needs no other mechanism to translate ideas. What it has is sufficient. More complicated organisms, mammals for example, have need of further mechanisms to construct ideas because they are able to perceive more of them. Here, memory is an element. Now, the organism has a built-in ghost image of past constructions by which to perfect and test new ones. Reflection of some sort enters into the picture, and with it the organism is given more to do. Slowly, within its range of receptivity, it is given some choice in the actual construction of ideas into physical reality. The reflection is brief, but for a moment the animal partakes of a new dimension. The shadow of time glimmers in his eyes, as the still imperfected memory of past constructions lingers in his consciousness. As yet, memory storage is small, but now the instantaneous construction is no longer instantaneous in our terms. There is a pause. The organism, the dog or tiger, can choose to attack or not to attack. The amoeba must construct its small world without reflection and without time as we know it. Entities with still broader range need more complicated structure. The scope of their receptivity is so large that the simple autonomic nervous system is not enough. The amoeba constructs each idea it receives because it is able to receive so few. All must be constructed to ensure survival. With man, the opposite becomes true. He has such a range of receptivity that it is impossible for him to construct all of his ideas physically. As his scope widened, a mechanism was necessary that would allow him to choose. Self-consciousness and reason were the answers. Suddenly, time blossomed like a strange flower in his skull. Before this, he was transfixed in the present. But memory produced another dimension in the animal, and man carried it further. No longer did memory flicker briefly and disappear, enclosing him in darkness again. Now it stretched brightly behind him, and also stretched out ahead, a road on which he always saw his own changing image. He learned continuity, and with his focused memory at his command, man's ego was born, which could follow its own identity through the maze of blazing impulses that beset him, could recognize itself through the pattern of continuing constructions, and could separate itself from its action in the physical world. Here you have the birth of subject and object, the I am, who is the doer or constructor, and the construction itself. This new dimension enabled the species to manipulate and recognize its own constructions and freed it to focus greater energy in projecting some ideas over others. In other words, conscious purpose became possible physically. Somewhere along the line, however, man began to divorce himself almost completely and artificially from his own constructions. Hence his groping, his sense of alienation from nature, his search for a cause or creator of a creation he no longer recognized as his own. So that's the end of her whole idea construction. That's written in this book. There's actually more that goes with it, but in this book. So she writes after, she notes in this book, outside of her first trance, it is impossible to describe the impression that this manuscript made on me, much less to verbalize the experience that accompanied it. All of these ideas were completely new to me and quite contrary to my beliefs. I had never written anything like this before. Rob was painting in his studio at the time. When he came out, I was so excited and amazed that I could hardly speak. We stayed up late that night talking. I tried to explain what had happened, realizing for the first time the vast gulf between words and subjective feelings. So I showed Rob the manuscript. Without it, incidentally, I would have been left without any tangible evidence at all. Yet when it was all over, my intellect was on its own again. What did the whole thing mean? I knew beyond all doubts that the ideas I'd received were true, yet intellectually they shocked me completely. Now, 7 years later, I realized that this was an excellent example of the ways in which the inner self can suddenly regenerate and revitalize the personality, open up new methods of perception, shatter barriers, and flood the personality with energy that sets it right, reorganizing it in more meaningful directions. It is a second birth. Such events are like geysers that erupt suddenly, bringing us closer to the center of our being. They come from subjective rather than objective reality, and in my case at least, they became objectified, their force propelling them into physical actualization. Okay, so that's the end of the physical universe as idea construction, Jane's first trance and initiation. Seth is soon to come. And the next video will be parts inside of the book. I'm not going to read the whole book. You guys have to buy the book yourself if you want to get all the information. But I am going to read some. Thank you for watching.